Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday.
When it's time to start your business, it's time for Shopify. I recently themes sell everywhere people shop and never miss a sale from the world's best converting checkout. See why millions of businesses sell with Shopify. Start your free trial today. I like winning on the field. It's even more fun when you deal there. Lori won $2,000 in earrings for just $1. And Joseph won an iPad for just $6. There's millions of fast options. So try
Hello. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Macy's, the fruitless destination. Like buy a sausage burrito and add a sausage with muffin for $1. Because a late night double shift deserves an early morning tea. Get more than you expect with flip-flop.
How is everyone saving during the holidays? It up Lowe's. They've got lots of buy one, get one free deals.
And if I buy this battery, I get a free tool?
That's right. That's how we know you get more holiday for less. Hold up. Domino's medium specialty pizzas are just $9.99 when I mix and match. I figured premium pizzas, premium prices. But what do I know? Clearly not as much as Don't let living with cancer define you. Discover an injectable immunotherapy, Opdivo Qvantig, for certain previously treated adults whose kidney cancer has spread. A chance to live longer, a treatment that's faster. Unlike an infusion that's
shooting that happened earlier today. This, of course, is the campus of Brown University, where earlier today, I guess yesterday now, 2 people were killed, at least 9 wounded. That count may continue to increase in the aftermath of a pretty tragic shooting that occurred on the campus of the university, which is pretty jarring. While there have been many school shootings over the course of the last 25 years in the United States, which is tragic in itself, they really haven't hit the campuses of the Ivy League universities. There have been a few university campus shootings, although mostly the realm of campus shootings has been the realm of high schools around the United States. There was the Virginia Tech campus shooting famously in 2007 that killed 30 plus people. Really, really tragic event there. I've actually been to the building on Virginia Tech's campus where that happened. I went there several years after it happened, and it was quite spooky, kind of ominous, walking the halls of that building. I was walking them literally at like 2 in the morning after it happened. And so I don't know, something about this shooting is certainly, well, it's, anytime there's a school shooting, it's quite tragic. It's also kind of jarring to the psyche. Certainly Brown University, this shooting is a little bit jarring to me. I've spent some time at Brown University. I didn't attend Brown, but I have spent a night or 2 at Brown in the course of my life for reasons that will be left unsaid here on this little video. But this shooting happened on the campus, which is pretty jarring considering that the people that go to Brown University pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 a year if they're paying full ride after they cover tuition, room, and board and all that kind of stuff. Brown University is notoriously a famous university for activists. It's in Providence, Rhode Island, and is very close to the downtown of the city. It's kind of, Providence is of course, as a city, is located a little bit between the cities of Boston, which is up here to its north, and then New York, which is down here. So it's obviously a lot closer to Boston, but it's part of that Northeast corridor up in New England. Providence, not a particularly beloved or beautiful city by most people, although some would say it's nice. I have never found it to be all that great. But Providence downtown is over here. And obviously, that is the most significant city in the state of Rhode Island. And right across the river, you have the uh, campus of Brown University. You also have RISD, which is the Rhode Island School of Design over there. And obviously, you have a lot of residential neighborhoods. Then you have the campus of Brown. A lot of the Brown campus students, the Brown University students, will walk over to
17
downtown
minutes.
Providence.
Guys, 17 minutes.
From time to time. They don't go a lot. When you're a university student, you have your whole world kind of at the university for the most part. But occasionally there are reasons why Brown students will walk downtown. And not that the city of Providence is always the safest place, but generally that's a walk that you can do. Brown University is not a particularly huge university. It's known for its undergraduate instruction. It is very much known as more of a liberal arts school when it comes to the various Ivy League schools, as opposed to some of the others that are known more for their graduate schools. So Brown is it's not among the largest of the schools in that realm, but here is the crux of the campus. So this is the main green of the campus. These are some of the major university administrative buildings, where the university president but works, and then some of the other universities or some of the other buildings where they administer the administration of the university. And then the Ruth J. Simmons quadrangle in here is where they have a lot of the academic buildings, a lot of the campus buildings where you go to lectures. And that's a pretty part of their campus, I would say. And the architecture on Brown's campus tends to be mostly this kind of red brick stuff. It feels very, academic, one would say. And then that's kind of the academic core of the campus. And then to the north and to the south, there are residence halls. Now, a lot of the students will live off campus, but especially as they get older into their junior and senior years. But places like this area of campus, which is a residential quadrangle. I think this is the Keeney quadrangle. That's like an undergraduate housing area. And then this area over here is the Hughes.
I decided I have time to do a show, and then I'm going to do it tonight too, because there's a lot of stuff out. Billy just came out with a 24-minute one. I got to play another 30-minute one, so a lot of good stuff coming out. So I'm going to see how long I can do the first show. And I talked to Michelle. That stuff was a scam when I got on a text. And 40 more hours I got to get. Tim, did you get my email yet? So I can get your contact number? I'm doing 2 shows today, unless I have to go somewhere. Because there's a lot of Midtown. This is 18 minutes. And we got the Australia lady with Holly interview. So that's going to be a good one, I think. And hopefully Paul and Nan will get in to see that one. This is from last night. Maria.
Court area. This is another residential area of the campus. And, as you'll see when you kind of pan around it, it's the kind of place where people will go out and play Frisbee and things like that. And
you don't have to say sorry, Carol.
Otherwise, just feels very kind of academic and scholarly. And even though most of the people around you may be there to party, at least it feels very learned, except on the weekends, late at night when everyone is kind of out and about, doing nefarious activities or heading off to nefarious activities.
No, JJ's not here yet.
I don't know exactly how strict Brown is in terms of alcohol policies in the dorms and things like that. I did once spend a night in a Brown University dormitory, with there was like it was me and one other guest of this person.
Okay, we had enough of that one. I got some other clips. And then we'll get some other stuff in. Billy's out 24 minutes, and I got another.
Out of Australia, 2 gunmen were shot dead, and at least 11 people were also shot and killed during a Jewish holiday celebration at Sydney's Bondi Beach. That is according to Australian authorities. They have declared it a terrorist attack. 1 gunman fatally shot by police and the second taken into custody. The suspect, we're told, in critical condition. Now, at least 29 people were confirmed wounded, including 2 police officers. Australia's prime minister declaring it, quote, an act of evil, anti-Semitism, terrorism that has struck the heart of our nation. And what you're looking at on your screen is actually some of the folks who actually witnessed this and did speak with some of the reporters there on the scene. But as you can see, a very active situation there, even at this hour. Right now, I do want to bring in Cliff May, the president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, to talk much more about all of this as it is developing. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Good to be with you, Josh.
And I did want to start by asking you here just kind of your overall
We'll play
thoughts.
a little
You wake
bit of
up
this.
and you start to read some of these
About 5
details. And
minutes.
at first you hear there's been a mass shooting there at a Hanukkah event. And then you find out just the extent of it. Tell me what's going through your mind at that point.
What's going to my mind are all the reasons for the cognitive war, not just against Israel, but against Zionists, which means people who support Israel's right to exist, and against Jews. Really the firestorm of anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, call it what you will, that we've seen over the last couple of years after Israel began to defend itself from Hamas, which on October 7th, 2023, invaded Israel, staged a vicious, barbarian pogrom, including rapes, killing of children, killing of families. And then Israel the next day was attacked, of course, by Hezbollah from Lebanon. They began rocketing in. For too long, the Houthis of Yemen began sending missiles at targets in Israel. And eventually in April and October of 2024, we saw Iran send hundreds of drones and missiles against Israel. Most of those attacks were thwarted thanks to American and Israeli air defenses. Israel has fought a multi-front war for 2 years. Thanks to President Trump, a ceasefire came about last October. Hostages were released. But while the kinetic operations were generally successful, Hezbollah is very weakened. Hamas is decimated. Iran no longer has nuclear potential, at least for now, thanks to President Trump sending in B-2s with massive ordnance penetrators. Nonetheless, there was also the
So that was Australia. And there was another one.
Dressed in all black, who left the scene on foot through a door on Hope Street. A shelter in place has been just lifted for the entire Brown campus, and the AP is reporting that a person of interest is in custody now.
Former ATF Special Agent Bernard Zapor joins us now. Bernard, thank you for getting up. What do you make of this situation? We're just getting this news that the shelter in place has been lifted. AP reporting someone's in custody, but clearly the police investigation is very active.
You know, it's an incredibly challenging tactical and investigative problem for all the law enforcement and community involved here, because essentially there's a lot of things that can't begin until the shooting stops. And until you have somebody in custody that you can confirm is the cause of this, the shooting hasn't stopped theoretically. And so their number one priority is to make sure that they're not going to have a re-engagement, that there are other participants in the shooting. And so, you know, a lot of resources that would be used investigatively are going to be committed to that. Resources have been coming in throughout the night.
Okay, so here. Which one do you guys want to do first? Billy or the lady from Australia? Okay, I guess I'll choose. I'll play Billy first. Hey, Paul. Oh, Sheila. Sorry, I thought you were Paul. His was purple symbol too. So yeah, Sheila, I gotta get 40 more hours to get monetized. So I'll probably, we got a lot of news out. I'm gonna play 2 shows today.
News Live Plus. And baby, it's going to be cold.
23
And
minutes.
we've had a tragic shooting at the University of Brown University in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I know, Carol.
President Trump rescues children in Venezuela. And in Houston, a slave auction has been disruptive. And the FBI is investigating corruption in Ukraine. So let's get started. So we're going to begin with a Hopi prophecy. This is about the blue kachina given centuries ago to signal a time of purification on the earth and coming around in natural cycles for the earth. That includes increased earthquakes, volcanoes, things going on in space, impacts on Earth. And we do see something blue in the sky.
I can see
with
again.
Atlas coming around. It's going to be the closest to the Earth, according to NASA, December 19. Now, Steve Bannon, Israeli News Live, he was former CIA, now has a ministry, states that he believes Atlas is a we could say man-made, but we're talking about fallen angels and Nephilim. So we could say ET made, so that Atlas is an ET object put in space by the fallen angels and Nephilim, who certainly have space technology, to mimic or bring about, excuse me, something like the Blue Beam Project. So the fallen angels and Nephilim can say, yes, the ETs created humans, and so on. And we see Dr. Stephen Greer. He's a medical doctor who has taken a bold step in disclosure for decades, believes that Atlas is synonymous with the deep state, and the deep state would be the fallen angels and Nephilim. Now, Stephen Banoon believes it's going to be a real event that could occur in 2026, possibly prompting more widespread disclosure about the ETs, which I know in the United States, I would say 75 to 80% of Americans believe that ETs are real, because many have been taught through their Christian churches that the ETs are indeed what the Bible speaks of, fallen angels and the Nephilim. This is when the fallen angels mated with human women and produced hybrids. And I've put this forth before. The Nephilim are unredeemable because they don't receive the Spirit of God. They cannot communicate with God, and they were not created by God. So that's going on. We have this weather report from Ryan Hall.
This adorable AI companion
there's
puppy
Paul.
is quickly becoming the most popular Christmas gift of 2025. It provides real companionship and emotional bonding.
That we could have Patriot subscribers. Cyber Signals, Dequell's aggregate site discerned report, Hal Turner, Israeli News Live Plus. Centuries ago, to signal a time, according to NASA, December 9th.
So, Paul, that Australia lady has Holly on. She's a guest for Holly. I'm going to be playing that next. You might like it. Oh, everybody might like it. I got screwed up here at the beginning here at the Billy video. 2 minutes in.
19. Now, Steve Banoon, Israeli News Live, he was former CIA, now has a ministry.
I'll do another show tonight.
States that he believes Atlas is a man, we could say man-made, but we're talking about fallen angels and Nephilim. So we could say ET made, so that Atlas is an ET object put in space by the fallen angels and Nephilim, who certainly have space technology, to mimic or bring about, excuse me, something like the Blue Beam Project. So the fallen angels and Nephilim can say, yes, the ETs created humans, and so on. And we see Dr. Stephen Greer. He's a medical doctor who has taken a bold step in disclosure for decades, believes that Atlas is synonymous with the deep state, and the deep state would be the fallen angels and Nephilim. Now, Stephen Banoon believes it's going to be a real event that could occur in 2026, possibly prompting more widespread disclosure about the ETs, which I know in the United States, I would say 75 to 80% of Americans believe that ETs are real, because many have been taught through their Christian churches that the ETs are indeed what the Bible speaks of, fallen angels and the Nephilim. This is when the fallen angels mated with human women and produced hybrids. And I've put this forth before. The Nephilim are unredeemable because they don't receive the Spirit of God. They cannot communicate with God, and they were not created by God. So that's going on. We have this weather report from Ryan Hall that we could have life-threatening cold weather coming up for the next 7 to 10 days, with some lows in the U.S. being feel-like temperatures of 50 below zero. In South Dakota and Minnesota, Ryan Hall puts forth that we could see, and also Chicago, minus 15 degrees and minus 10 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. And that also this cold will extend down into Indianapolis, Louisville, Kentucky, and New York. So that's going on. And I saw a report on Facebook this morning talking about a blizzard that took place in Red Deer, Canada, decades ago, where the actual temperature was 100 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. People actually froze to death inside their homes if their heat wasn't functioning. So that's going on. And it will cover about 3/4 of the U.S., with the lower South states escaping the bitter cold. Although along South Texas, Houston, we're expecting freezing temperatures today. But as far as I know, in Texas, along the South Coast, we've never experienced 0 degrees. Praise the Lord. We have this going on. Let's find out. From Stephen Burns, geophysicist, talking about what's coming up and we're seeing in space. Now, today, we do have coronal holes on the sun facing the Earth, but no flaring is taking place. We do continue to receive from the solar wind increased proton saturation of the Earth down to ground level.
The worst freaking state to live in right now is Michigan, and nobody's talking about it.
And we can expect to see increased earthquake activity, including Japan. Now, Stephen Burns and other geophysicists are predicting a soon mega quake in Japan, possibly a 9 to 10, which would then definitely impact with tsunamis and increased earthquake activity, the U.S. West Coast, Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, and so on. So that's going on. And we have this. Yeah, Japan, we know recently had they had a 7.6 and then a 6.7, and then they had a third 6.7, 6 miles deep. That happened December 12. Nope, this was a 5.6. So we see continued activity around Japan. And we have this. I have a Patriot subscriber. I put out my last video that we had information from Alex Craner, a European journalist, that European billionaires were sending money into the U.S., Soros, MoveOn.org, to juice up and pay protesters inside the U.S. in an attempt to overthrow the U.S. government, including Black Lives Matter and so on. And I have my Patriot subscriber says,
15
for
more minutes on this
billionaires
one.
to send money in to the U.S.
Oh,
from
the
foreign
four-letter
nations
word.
constitutes
Okay, but Lucy-
foreign interference. And I couldn't agree more. And we have this. BLM, and this foreign money would have been funneled down to anti-government organizations in the U.S. like BLM. BLM Executive Director Toshiba Dickerson, located in Oklahoma, has been charged with fraud and money laundering up to $2 to $3 million. So we can believe that. And we have this. Stikos aggregate site Discern report talking about the shooting at Brown University that took place in Rhode Island, up in the northeast corner of the U.S. That happened on Saturday. We have 2 dead and 9 wounded and in critical condition. And initially, reports came out that a suspect had been arrested, but now reports are coming out that no, the suspect has not been arrested. Now, a video of a suspect has been released, and we see the back of a man dressed in black, appearing to be stocky. He could have had, Velcro, the bullet stopping equipment on that made him look stocky, but he looked stocky. I judged his age to be in the 30s, and it shows an individual who had just shot dead 2 and wounded 9 inside an engineering classroom where a final exam was being administered. But it shows him calmly walking out onto the street. My perception of this individual is that he is a professional hitman. So it will be interesting to see who it is he killed. So that's going on. And we're hearing conflicting reports again, what Brown University is doing. Some reports say they've stopped all final exams and have told students to go home. So I guess that would mean you would be off the hook for your final. Nevertheless, our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to the families of these 2 young students who were killed and the 9 who are critically injured and are fighting for their lives right now. So that's going on. We have this, drill, baby, drill. We know President Trump promised us that.
Right?
And President Trump has taken down all of the JB anti-drilling efforts and taken down all laws passed in the term of JB, which are definitely suspect due to the auto pin.
I'll be out again tonight at 5 or 6.
And has opened drilling in North Dakota, Montana, Alaska, Wyoming. So that's going on. And as I recently reported, in Wyoming, we have 3 new mining operations for rare earth minerals also put in place by our great President Trump, who wants to make America great again. And we have this regarding animals. President Trump has canceled a contract amounts
for
of
coming
up
in.
to $28 million to do testing on
I'll be out
animals.
again
That's
tonight.
canceled. Plus, HHS is now moving to ban all animal testing at the CDC. So that's going on. We have this. Yes, near Houston recently, there was, in October, an actual human slave auction where the rich and powerful came to bid and buy human beings. There were 62 victims, ages 8 to 43, and they were taken down by the FBI, Homeland Security, and Texas law enforcement. And the cost, you might wonder, of these human beings ranges from $1,000 to $5,000 per person. So that's going on. 71 arrests were made. This includes 8 people who were operating the auction, 43 buyers, and 20 security people. You know, the rich travel around with their own security.
A lot of news out.
So way to go, President Trump. We have Cyber Signal talking about an operation by ICE FBI Plus, taking down and arresting a Somali hospital director in Ohio, Anaya Hassan. The hospital was engaged in organ harvesting and manufacturing and distributing fentanyl. So that's going on. And patients who appeared to be near death or critical were euthanized and then their organs harvested. This was on behalf of the cartel, CNJC, and Sinaloa. So we see once again a Somali refugee engaged in organ harvesting and drug distribution. We have this, President Trump. Yes, recently President Trump ordered the seizing of a Venezuela ghost oil tanker in the Caribbean. And besides the oil on it, it was determined by the operation that was operated by the U.S. Navy SEALs, Department of Homeland Security, FBI, Coast Guard, and Marine Special Ops. On board the ghost oil tanker, they found oil. They also found 5 terrified children who had been kidnapped. And they also found weapons, Kalashnikovs, and cocaine. So way to go, President Trump. And now we have this. We have from Hal Turner. So we have the U.S. military putting some finishing touches on what's going on in the Caribbean to come against Venezuela. And we have that, we have CENTCOM and INDOPACOM sending in additional equipment that includes strike and surveillance planes.
Show your daughter how much you love her with this beautiful gift. It says,
such as F-35s and Growlers.
5 minutes.
We have combat rescue, search and rescue, Jolly Green helicopters going in. We have 6 KC-135 refuelers going to the Dominican Republic. We have MQ drones flying over Venezuela. We have advanced radar now operating in Trinidad and Tobago, 2 small islands. So we see increased operations in the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Trinidad, Tobago, the middle of the Caribbean. We have the Gerald Ford Strike Carrier Group. We still have a NOTAM, 200 miles long, operating off of the east coast of the U.S. to be in place for several months. So that's going on. And that information came from Hal Turner. We have Crux reporting. In Syria, Saturday, we had 2 U.S. military troops killed and 1 American civilian interpreter. President Trump has made a public statement regarding this. They were killed. It was a joint U.S. and Syria operation. They were ambushed by ISIS. President Trump reports the U.S. military will retaliate against ISIS. And once again, our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to the families of our U.S. military who are bravely dying in the cause of maintaining security in and around the world. We have this from Promethean Update. FBI, Kash Patel and Don Bongino are operating inside or they are guiding investigations inside Ukraine with regard to Ukraine corruption. We've already seen a close aide and advisor to Zelensky removed from his position, and as far as I know, he's left Ukraine, Yermak. But it's coming out that additional people involved in the corruption in Ukraine have also been removed. This corruption involves the funneling of U.S. money sent to Ukraine to support its government and people being put into the greedy pockets of Zelensky, Yermak, and others. So that's going on. We do have in Ukraine, Russia capturing another major city, Syryansk. And we have Ruda, the head of NATO, making questionable statements, saying that Europe must prep for war with Russia. And reports are that Europe doesn't have anything that Russia wants. So that's going on. We have this from Hal Turner also. So inside Ukraine, we had Keir Starmer, the leader of the UK, coming out and making a public statement that yes, UK does have troops inside Ukraine, boots on the ground, fighting directly against Russia. And that we had 1 UK paratrooper killed recently inside Ukraine, but there have been many others. So that's going on. What's different is Keir Starmer is saying, yes, the UK does have troops on the ground actively fighting against Russia. This was Lance Corporal Hulley, 28, a paratrooper. And Starmer also said there are currently 100 paratroopers plus special forces, UK special forces inside Ukraine fighting against Russia. So that's going on. And we have this. We have that Russia takes surveillance that happened in the past few days, and rumors are that Ukraine troops are disguising themselves as women so they can cross the border into Russia to seek asylum. So that's going on. It's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
The worst.
Okay, that one just came out just a little bit ago. I got a short clip before I play that one video.
Oh mon gros! Oh, mais il va se faire tirer dessus.
That guy took that gun away from him.
Il est trop con, le mec qui a l'arme. Le mec est hyper courageux. Oh. Oh l'enculé, il a pris une deuxième arme.
I'm not sure where that was at, you guys.
Welcome.
Okay,
welcome to you, everybody, and thank you so much to the beautiful.
I might just do this one, you guys. It's 47 minutes, so if you guys don't want me to play it, I'll stop it. But we'll see how long you guys want me to do it. See what they say.
Beautiful Holly for inviting me on today. This is actually my very first formal interview, by the way, just so you know, Holly. So I feel very, very honoured and privileged to be here on my first appearance with you. So
Thank you.
That's quite okay. So I
know you have a wealth of information. We were talking prior to hitting record of information that's going on that you can share what you're allowed to share. And I will turn it over to you, and feel free to share what you want to share about what's going on.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. I guess it's at the point where everyone's sort of waiting for the RV and what's required. And we saw the hype of ISO 222, and then we sort of like fell into that little, nothing else happened again. But as you and I both know, Holly, there is so much going on in the background, and this is all about the fundamentals. And of course, you know, we've been following this for so many years that basically from about 2012, I really started to see some implementations of this new quantum system coming into play.
Your father knows about saving money. Everything I'm wearing, I've had since boot camp.
And as it sort of came into play, of course, then DJT came in, so that boosted our energies into the belief that this was actually going to happen. And of course, we went through those 4 years, and then we had the 4-year lull, so to speak. And then, of course, then he comes back again. And we're at that point, we always come towards that Christmas time, don't we? And we're sort of like, is it this Christmas? And so I think it's sort of like, it's for me, the exciting part is over my journey, as I was just saying to you, Holly, is that when I focused on the fundamentals, that kept me excited. Right. It kept me going because it wasn't about dates or rates and things like that as well. It was like, oh, wow, we're moving one step ahead and another step ahead. And it was like we were doing these steps up to the heavens, so to speak. And it will be heavenly, it will be biblical once this was all released. And so looking forward to more fundamentals. Boy, have we had an amazing, amazing week this week. There has been so much going on. We've seen governments resigning, which is part of the Jasara as well. So we saw Bulgaria, a few other countries where their government has been resigned due to political upheaval. And that is part of the reset, so to speak. It's resetting the government and the countries to be able to go into it. And so I thought I would start with a little bit of background on what is required for the RV to actually occur. Because as I said, our emotions are running high with Christmas.
What do you guys think so
all
far?
things, holy and what have you. So I thought, let's look at this in a fundamentals, and you're going to get very, very excited, ladies and gentlemen. So let's look at the full reserves banking. What does that actually mean? We all talk about on my show quite often about the reserves in the central banks. And it's come to note that due to the implementation since 2012, we started seeing things like Basel 3, Basel 3.1, Basel 3.2 come into play. And what does that mean? It means that the banks, including the central banks, have to hold a portion of up to 60 to 80%, depending on your country and other factors. But let's say 60% has to be held inside of that banking system to support a brand new currency, which is now going to be pegged through blockchain. So these full reserves banking is basically indicating why we talk about central banks. They are just an umbrella for the new system. It takes away the power of what they were before because of the blockchain. So the reserves will be linked through blockchain and utilising that stability of the gold and silver. We just saw a big article come out about JP Morgan and the silver hoarding, so to speak. And just to remind everyone too that, of course, silver was the backing of the gold standard back in the day. And if we were to go back and further in history, when the very first Olympics occurred, silver was number one. So if you came first, you actually received silver.
I did not know that.
There you go. So silver was like the number one. And of course, and then they introduced gold and what have you, but because it was more glamorous looking and what have you. But back in the very first, if you came first, you actually got silver.
Wow.
So a little bit of traditional history there. But so we look at what the banks and the central banks are holding. So this is the full reserve banking that we call, and stabilising the country. So that gives the country stability. Not only does the country have to be stable in the banks, but that's why I was mentioning about the governments being resigning and the corruption. Sometimes in some countries we have to eliminate the whole government to reset into the new governance. So we're moving in this transition period as well for stability, and we saw it many years ago when we saw, just to remind people, I think it was the Lebanese when they had the so-called fireworks factory on the port exploded. Well, whilst that was actually going on, that was actually the resigning of the Lebanese government. That was the cover story for the Lebanese government. So if you were to line up the resignation of that country, because it was so unstable and there was so much corruption, they utilised that bombing, so to speak, that incident to cover the story behind it was that resigned the whole government. So we're starting to see this. And as I said, this week, I think I've seen about 4 or 5 countries, their governments have resigned. That's to create stability in the country. So the country has the gold reserves, which we're seeing quite a lot of, and then we see the stability. So taking away the government or the corruption, it is a great, exciting time to be alive, because that then introduces us then to the platforms that they need to do their trading. with as well.
Kroger shoppers get up high quality and down low prices. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
So I often talk about how important the trades are between countries, and that sometimes the trading is also to do with bartering. So we saw this especially in countries such as Egypt and Africa and South Africa, where they actually do barter trades. And they were trading between countries without using the currency because the currency wasn't stable. And they wanted to depeg from the US dollar, so they barter traded. So there was a lot of barter trades there for quite some time. People, tend to forget. So that's been going on in the background. That's creating stability in countries as well. So if you're seeing me talking about trade settlements and things like that as well, it's the trade settlements on the actual blockchain that is supporting, of course, the quantum system. That's very important because when they're trading in their own currency, and this also ties in with the tariffs as well. So I'll go into a little bit more about the tariffs and that in a short minute, but that's what this trading is. It's to actually keep the resources and the rare earth minerals in the country to support the currency. Because if the currency is going to be supported by their commodities, it needs to stay in the country. So the tariffs were always put out there to reduce that so as they stay within the country. And it was very interesting. A member sent me an article regarding Italy. And I actually said that the EU will be dismantled, so to speak, and each country will go back to its original currency. So that was perfect timing because I'd been talking about this, like I said earlier, for quite some time. And now these things are starting to come into fruition. So they're great reminders for myself to remind all of you who, especially if they haven't followed me before, that I've been talking about this for many years and now it's starting to occur. So the other things that we need to remind ourselves of in the RV requirements is, of course, the IMF is connected to the World Bank, but they are working alongside BRICS. So that's a very good indicator. And the BRICS payment system, of course, is the implementation of the quantum system to the level playing field, one-to-one parallel. We saw many articles this week talking about the parallel alignment, which is the one-to-one alignment, especially with the release, of course, of the RLUSD and Ripple getting their banking license and things like that as well. So it all starts to connect in together. So the IMF and, of course, the World Trade Organization, of course, we've been seeing this through the Iraqi news, but we're also starting to see that now in other countries. I think Indonesia just came out just the other day and Vietnam. We're talking about the World Trade Organization. So we looked at Iraq for many, many years and used that as the guidelines to the currency reset. And now we're seeing countries such as Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, and all of these are now coming out in articles that we've seen. But there's one very special one I'd like to bring up actually, Holly, and that's Iran, the quiet country. And why was it always sanctioned and things like that as well is because they never played the game with the US dollar. They held their own, and that's why they were always punished, I guess, from the US and things like that as well. It's because they didn't play the game and they stood strong. So very interesting. We'll go into that in a short minute as well. But these are the things that we need to keep an eye on before the RV actually occurs. There's also operational banking, as I said, the ISO 222 messaging system. That's come into play. That's already there. We're seeing debt restructuring, which is all your Doge. we're seeing many things in different countries talking about sovereign wealth funds and that as well. And this is the Doge in each of those countries. So understand in the US, we saw the Doge. We have Doge in Australia as well. But other countries may use different acronyms or names, that being, as I said, sovereignty wealth funds. They are all to do with those funds being released for the RV to happen.
Meet Plank, an intuitive investing app to help you build confidence as you go.
So then that leads into, of course, the news that came out just a short while ago, where I found out that the Native American settlements in the US, there's a lot of whispers about that coming out. Well, that's part of the Tier 3. And if they're talking about that, then they must be pretty close to having the Tier 1 and Tier 2, rolling out as we go. So in America, it's the Native American settlements, but in other countries, as I said, it could be called a sovereign wealth fund, but these must be released first. And so we need to recognise these opportunities, that we need to hold back our emotions and focus on that fundamentals, so as we don't get solely attached to these dates and things like that as well. So if you're in your country and you're seeing sovereign wealth fund or Native American settlements, then you know that things are definitely starting to move fairly fast through all of that. So these payouts, as I said, explaining again, it comes out from the asset-backed corrections. So once the corrections are done on the blockchain, then the currencies will be revalued or reinstated, or they will have what they call a near value attached to those as well. This has also got to do with land valuations. Now, here's a very interesting one. I actually I have a newsletter that came through from the International Valuation Securities Commission. So this overrides the SEC and all the other security. And they're talking about the revaluation of real estate and jewellery just in this last month. So that's also a huge indicator. We've often gone through this journey, those of us who have been around for a while. I've talked a lot about the 1955 prices and things like that as well. And I often wondered, how's that going to happen? So the land valuations that they're talking about in the International Valuation Committee is very, very interesting, because this is land valuations will adjust mortgages and things like that as well. So again, I think there's going to be a transitional period where these things will start to roll out, and then we'll see land valuations changed, because as I said, your mortgages actually are valued, aren't they, against land or other assets. So these are what we call corrections. So they'll have corrections made, and then the mortgages and that. So I think just Sarah, everyone always says it's going to happen like that. I think it's going to be rolled out slowly as these transitions occur in that sector. So that was a very interesting article about land valuations and asset-backed corrections. It also talks a little bit about royalties and revenues, and this is where the tariffs and that come into play. So here in Australia, in the mining sector, and we're talking a lot about rare earth minerals, and of course there's royalties attached to those, and sometimes they're called tariffs. So the royalties, of course, will also be able to support these payouts or these releases as well to the Native American settlements and the sovereign funds, and eventually it will be given back to the people in certain ways. But that's how they actually fund also the funding to all these settlements that are going on in the background. That includes your fines and penalties and things like that as well. So, because often people hear of these things and go, well, where does this money come from? Well, the money comes from, as I said, land valuations and asset corrections once the gold has increased even a little bit more, and silver will catch up. Then there will be corrections, and they will make adjustments according to how much they actually hold in their bank. So then it goes back full circle to where we started from before. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense anyway.
No, that was a great explanation. You really have done a great job of knitting it all together for somebody that's seasoned in this and somebody that's a beginner. They'll be able to understand what's
30
going
minutes,
on in
guys.
the world. So thank
30
you.
minutes.
That's okay. I think the biggest news, though, that I got goosebumps was just yesterday. And there was a huge article that I just wanted to touch on, if I may. And that was from the DTCC. And this is the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation in the United States. Now, it's also connected to New York, London, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Sydney.
Uniswap Labs is built for DeFi because Uniswap Labs built DeFi. We've been creating powerful tools to make.
So there's your 5 pillars, ladies and gentlemen. You often hear me talking about 5 pillars. So this is your market infrastructure. So post any kind of trades that occur, go through the DTCC, and this is your new global financial services. Now, they've been talking about for quite some time about their new platform. So they've just received a letter, though, from the SEC. And again, as I said, the international revaluation is also overrides the SEC as well. But the SEC came out and said they don't have any arguments about them going or moving forward. That's a green light. That is a green light for go, ladies and gentlemen. Get excited, because this is to actually revalue those assets that we were just talking about just a short time ago. So this allows the depository trust, because everything's held in trust now. We talk about trusts when we move forward with our actual redemption as well, and how to protect ourselves with trusts and things like that. So this depository trust is a deposit of the gold that is held within those banks. And this is the green light for them to actually tokenize on that blockchain so as they can establish that infrastructure for the revaluation of our currencies. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is a very, very big green light for all of us to get very, very excited about. You don't have to understand a lot of it, but understand the real world assets. These are the assets, as I said, that are going to back the currencies during this currency reset. And of course, that rolls out in the second half of 2026. So don't be disheartened by that roadmap. It's just a roadmap. And as we saw during the transition of Basel III and things like that as well, we all thought that all banks were going to collapse. Has that happened? No, it hasn't, because they all were going through a transition. So things can still happen, but the full rollout will be finalised in the first half of 2026. So we still have a lot of exciting things to happen yet. So this is also the new digital age, and of course, a full potential of the blockchain. So this is going to really show all of us the full potential of the importance of blockchain and the DeFi and things like that as well. So that then sort of like got me excited as well, because we talked about central bank digital currencies and central banking digital currencies for many, many years. And the difference between the centralized or the central bank and the decentralized system, which is the blockchain in the quantum system. So what was to be was centralized, and we are now decentralized. And that's where we also hear a lot about this DeFi. It's decentralized finance. So that's also one of those acronyms that you're going to start hearing and seeing a lot more about as we come closer to the transition of them so-called flipping the switch, so to speak. So that's where we're sort of sitting with that. But that was huge news. I was was so excited to get that news yesterday, and I thought, I get to share that with the world, because that is a green light for go. That's one of those big green lights we have been waiting for a very long time. So that was that was big news. I was very excited about that. So, but yeah, so
it is very exciting. And when you break it down step by step of what needs to happen, no wonder why it's taking time. It's not something, you know, everybody thinks it's just a flip of the switch and we're reset and that's it. No, there is a major underbelly inside of this machine that there is systematic step by step to go from traditional banking finance into the decentralized finance onto the blockchain. It's not something that can just be done, and I've talked about this before, really quickly, because they've been doing it so slowly. So there is not a disruption in the entire world economy. It has to be done so seamlessly, you don't even know that we're switching over. And then there's all these, you know, pieces coming in, like this piece you just talked about, that is huge. Now, did we know that needed to take place? No. But we find out, oh, well, this needed to happen for the next step. You know, we always find out afterwards, you know, they never tell us beforehand, you know, the thousands of steps that needs to happen. We find out as it's happening and what needs to take place.
Taking the time to savor Thomas's crunchy yet soft bagels.
Thanks, Tom.
It's Tom, actually.
Right, Tom.
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 You doing that on purpose?
Tam.
Tam.
How have we got to town?
Huzzah! A toast to breakfast.
Bringing out special guests is something that I really enjoy. There's something that happens.
Yeah, and that's a great reminder too, because I remember the saying that came out when the military came out one time, and they said, this will be a smooth transition, ladies and gentlemen, a very smooth transition. And I think it will be. You know, we know, as I said, the clearing houses were used as the platform to incorporate from your Federal Reserve into your US Treasury, and the same in other countries as well. They created bridges to make it a smooth transition. So the bridge was broken. There was no bridges to bridge these from one to the other. And it was taking the fiat from the Federal Reserve, and we often talk about the gold will, you know, the Fed will go because of the gold. And then, of course, then it's transferred into the Treasury. Well, Treasury is gold, isn't it? When you think of treasure, the hidden treasure in the oceans, it's always the gold, the silver, the brass, the copper. The treasure is where the Treasury is. That's where that gold is actually thing. They're just using the bridge between the Federal Reserve into the Treasury, and they're using that clearinghouse platform. And that's why that DTCC is also very important, is because they're talking about utilising the clearinghouse. And that's what I've been talking about for quite some time, for many, many years. And that's that bridge, that gap, to convert that from the fiat into the gold. And of course, the gold will destroy the Fed. So that is your smooth transition. Does the Fed go away completely? As I said, eventually it will. But during this transition, I think the umbrella of the Federal Reserve will remain. The building is still there, but no one is home. We already know that. But so that's why that is so important to understand. So it was interesting, because the Curvature Securities noted that the pace of the buying of the gold is greater than the mortgage bonds that are held by the Fed as well. So I think this is, again, that transition of the Fed being exposed, in the sense that although there's gold there, the gold will destroy, and those mortgages will be then released from that fiat into the gold-backed, and then they will have those adjustments in the system. Hence, JASARA will then occur shortly after, or simultaneously.
Right.
So that's the background of how Jasara will actually work, is the mortgages and the gold. So
right. I love how you spoke about smooth transition, because Trump always said it would be a smooth transition of power. A lot of people thought, well, that would just be the government, a smooth transition of power from the government. No, 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 no. Well, that is one piece of it, but it's a smooth transition of power in the financial sector, because that's the biggest thing that they are restructuring, along with all the governments, along with the bad military that's being cleaned out, along with all the bad corporations, and everything is getting restructured, and it has been a smooth transition all across the board.
Oh, for sure. And we all thought it was going to be, all the hoo-ha, but it hasn't been that way at all. We've created a lot in our own mind. I think our expectations of what we thought we knew was going to happen hasn't happened. So then we get disheartened.
Yes.
And yet, if we see and look at and start to gain more knowledge about how the structure is restructuring, and it's the same as what I said about the IMF and the World Bank working alongside of BRICS. BRICS owns it. BRICS is running the IMF and the World Bank right now. Understand that. It's the same with the World Economic Forum. We saw as BRICS was starting to form and the de-dollarization was occurring because of BRICS, we started to see implementations of the International Forum, the Western Forum, the Eastern Forum. This is the destruction of the old World Economic Forum. And we often have to remind ourselves as well that a lot of these things are done because DJT did say to us many years ago, he is a businessman. He will he'll take a whole hotel and he will restructure it, but it'll be a new hotel. So he's utilizing the umbrella of the World Economic Forum, restructuring it, and then he can demolish it. That's the exciting part about this, is that you're restructuring a hotel, but you're making it anew in the guts of it. So he's taken the guts out of the hotel, restructuring it, and then you can dismantle the rest. And that's what he's doing. He's a businessman. He's going to utilize that. And it's like we go through this transition period, and people often talked about, the taxes and the income taxes. Well, just a reminder, DJT always said he did pay his taxes and he did them legally. He worked within the system, but found flaws in the system, but done it legally.
With Kroger's same-day pickup and delivery, you can shop the same in-store prices.
And that's what we need to be focusing on, not the fact that there is not going to be taxes. That's correct. But whilst we're going through this transition, it's still important to do everything legally.
18
so
minutes,
as
guys.
You go through the system and then destruct the system. But whilst you're restructuring, you still have to follow the system. And that's what he was showing us, that we need to become more business-minded. And that's why it's so important to remember the restructuring, the destruction, and the smooth transition all goes hand in hand. And that's, a really good reminder that whilst we all look at the World Economic Forum as bad, it was actually being restructured through BRICS. We just didn't see it. I mean, I saw it, but we didn't understand that that was the destruction or the restructure of the World Economic Forum. Those funds were then transferred, and we saw a lot of good things actually came out of the World Economic Forum. Again, we don't see that because we're so focused on they were bad. They actually came out, as I said, their funds were restructured, and they have been doing some amazing work under the banner of the World Economic Forum. So we have to see the good in the restructure. It's not everything is bad. It's a restructure and a transition. And of course, none of us like going through a transition, do we? None of us like too much change, because we've been so conditioned on how we do our banking and things like that as well. So I think
Oh,
it's a reminder to have an
Welcome.
open
First
mind
time
and
in
an
here?
open heart as we continue to go through these changes and allow to see the positive in everything,
I'll be
because
back at
it's not
5 o'clock
all
on
bad.
the short
So
videos.
the restructure of this economic system has
wanted to
been
get the
amazing.
long
I've,
ones
I've
out
had
of
a
the way.
great time enjoying it.
As the world has been restructured and all these different organizations are restructured, those of us that have waited so long for this, I've mentioned this before, we are being restructured. We are not even the same person we were when we started on this journey, because we've been having our eyes so wide open to the fraud and the debt slaves that we were, that we didn't even know we were, and all the different ways that they have tried to poison us and kill us and, you know, take from us. Those of us that have dug so deep into this have gone so far in that rabbit hole. It's made us a different person. By the time we come out on the other side, we are completely different and changed. So
15
that
minutes.
I just spoke about this the other day. When we have this wealth, we are good stewards of this wealth, because I believe those of us that are involved, we had to go through so much internal changes to be able to handle what's coming.
Absolutely. And I've often talked about this in some groups, that it's not just a currency revaluation, it's a revaluation of us as well. And for me, it's a revaluation of, you know, ourselves and our beliefs, our frequencies, our ascension. It's a whole combination. It's not just about the currencies. And a currency exchange is, as I said, it doesn't have to be financial. It's also an energy exchange or a frequency that we share with what we do and how we portray and ourselves and moving forward. And this is why we are a humanitarian, is because we get to share that currency. Current is movement of electricity or electrical current, so to speak. So it's been an absolute amazing journey. And there's just, I mean, I've still got another 5 pages I haven't even touched on, Holly, that, you know, that we could talk about for hours. And but there is so much going on. And as I said, you know, stay very focused on the fundamentals, ladies and gentlemen, because that's what's going to get you
I got
through.
the Eagles on right now.
So
They got the
we'll see
field
what happens.
cleared
But
off.
I mean, there's in the currency sector,
Lucy's
even, I
from
mean, I'm looking at this
Philadelphia
page
too.
and we're talking about Modi's going over to Jordan, Ethiopia, and Oman. And it's like those currencies are very, very important connected to the Indian rupee. So there's so much activity going on when you understand the history of Ethiopia. Their currency, of course, is birr, which is called silver. It's actually, in translation, it's actually silver. Ethiopian birr. So that's what I'm saying. There's so many connections to the currency revaluations. And yeah, like I said, I can talk all day about currencies and currency resets. So
Isn't it interesting talking about silver, where you said it used to be the most, you know, number
Valued.
one
Yeah.
metal, and in the Olympics that was given out, that silver has been so suppressed. If it's more valuable than gold, well, let's suppress it so people really won't buy it, and let's make gold more valuable in people's minds and raise the price of that. And now we're seeing that silver is just going up, up, up. You know, their spot price, I think today it was $63. So you mentioned about JP Morgan. They used to, you know, suppress that and keep it a very low rate. They can't anymore because all the central banks are buying it up. Everybody wants it. People are buying it. So you can't keep a price lower when there's such a demand. And it's probably
Hey,
been
we're under
kept
10
low
minutes, guys.
because it is more valuable than gold. All
Exactly
an
right.
illusion. Nothing is as it seems.
It was very interesting. Just to putting one little thing aside about the currency revaluations, it's true. Everything is an illusion. And it's like when you find out the truth that they actually did land on the moon, even though we saw that they didn't, they actually did. And this is what I'm saying, the illusions of keeping us, that's another story, by the way, Holly. You should see me when I'm on a roll with all of those kind of conspiracy theories. But everything is an illusion. Everything that we thought was bad was actually good, and what we thought we saw was bad actually did happen. And yes, I have done so much research in the last 3 weeks. I think I have had massive downloads of so much more news. And
Hey, Kev, I did a few things, and Billy and this one. I've got the 2 long ones out of the way, and I'll do the short one tonight at 5. I need about 40 more hours now to get monetized.
I said, everything ties in to the currency reset. It's just incredible. And so I'm excited for Sizzling Sunday this week because I get to talk a little bit more, as I said, about the history of the countries and their currencies and the upcoming events that are actually going to occur. So we'll see what transpires. I think even the 22nd, there's a lot of things happening around the 22nd of December. So either way.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Either way, I think we're going to have a fantastic Christmas. Either way, whatever happens, ladies and gentlemen, be happy, 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 because there is so much to look forward to. There really, truly is things to look forward to. So, yeah.
So
we'll see.
I was going to say, with those dates in December, we have AIA Atlas 31, or however you say that, that's coming back into our field. I think it's the 18th or 19th of December.
Yes.
And that is going to be shifting the energy on the planet and the people. I mean, it's just the perfect time of having that come into the field at this moment when we're going through such a restructuring. It's not coincidental. I mean, everything is done, with exact precision how it's done, though it does look like nothing's being done. If you listen to gurus, it's like, oh, we just got delayed, we got delayed. It's never going to happen. But know that this is being done with military precision. And you just have to know and see what's being done will happen in the most godly time when it's supposed to happen.
100%. And yeah, absolutely. It is in God's timing. And it has always been event driven as well. So this is why I thought, well, if it's event driven, let's just watch the events. Is 3i Atlas the sky event that we've been waiting for?
Could be.
So many prophecies have been coming out also about the AI Atlas releasing. There's a lot of people, I've had about 4 confirmations now of people visually seeing as prophecies of the unidentified flying objects, so to speak, being out on the ocean, on the actual beaches and things like that, and just sitting there. Is that the sky event? Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be something special.
Yeah.
Did you know with Capital One, you can see if you're pre-approved for card offers with no impact to your credit score? Don't believe me?
Yeah.
Because it has to wake, and we are seeing a lot of people waking up, Holly, as you said. This frequency of the 3i Atlas, although I don't talk a lot about it because everyone else is, and I don't need to add to that as well, but what I'm saying is that frequency that's coming through, those energies that are coming through, I have noticed, and I've heard a lot of people say, there's a lot of people still waking up or resurgence of all of the protests and things like that as well. This is like going COVID 2.0 again. All the protests are going on, and it's like this new surgence of energy and frequencies and understanding. And it's like it's frustrating for some of us because we are repeating ourselves over and over again. But it's so exciting in the same sense because so many people are coming through and experiencing this change. And they don't really even understand or notice that they're changing. But I can see it and I can feel it, and I can feel their energy and the frequencies of people going, oh, we're not going to put up with that anymore. And I go, oh, this is exciting. Where were you 5-6 years ago when this is going down, you know? So I think, as you said, the 3-Eye Atlas, and that is going to be one of those things that is going to be, you know, up there with that energy exchange. And it's certainly going to be a beautiful shift, as I said, moving into the festive season,
right,
and things like that as well. So we got a lot to be excited about. So yeah,
and a lot to be really in gratitude for, that we are awake and aware and we're witnessing this, and we will be part of it. Now, if it does not happen by Christmas, as everybody's, you know, waiting for, just know we're coming up based on how you've laid out all the steps. We're coming up to it. We're at the tail end. I mean, the final pieces are being put into place. So if everybody stops focusing on, I want it this week, I want it before Christmas, I want it, you know, yes, people are desperate, and I'm not negating anybody that's suffering and needs this, but you can't force it to happen. And unfortunately, other people out there give you false expectations, and then you get deflated when it doesn't happen during what they're saying. Just know, though, we are coming into the end of it. We're in the end days of it, whether it, you know, happens sometime in 2026, which I believe it's going to start rolling out into 2026.
Yeah.
But the final pieces are coming in.
And these pieces are, like you said, the final pieces, like doing an actual jigsaw puzzle, and you've got those last 10 pieces that need to go into the puzzle, and you sort of almost trying to force them to fit, and they don't quite fit. And you have to sort of like look at them from a different perspective. And that's what we try and do on our show as well, is to give everyone a different perspective and keep everyone grounded as much as I possibly can, because that's what's going to get you through. And I've always said that it's going to be, we have like 1 to 3% of the population have heard of the currency reset and things like that as well. But there's always been this part in my heart that says there's only going to be 1% of that 1% that's going to survive right through to the ending of this game, because it's not going to be pleasantry in the sense if you focus on the dates and things like that as well. But if you focus and so stay grounded with the impact of what's coming, it's going to be absolutely so exciting. And so thank you so much, Holly, for the opportunity today to share some of those insights and put a few things into perspective as we head into this festive time of the year. So it's always, like I said, a very emotional time for everyone, because we always expected Christmas to be that Christmas. And I think, you know, either way, it's going to be a fantastic Christmas. So
yes. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing.
So that was yesterday, I believe, that came out. I wanted to get that. I thought that was an important video. And we got Billy, and so the 5 o'clock one will be out, you know, get all the short ones with Q and all the rest of them. We'll be doing later at 5. Thanks, Kay. So God bless everybody. Make sure everybody checks the backup channels that Michelle put in the description box. That's all you gotta do is push the link there. Make sure you guys go for the backup channels, everything. So thank you, and then stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith, never give up, and signing off for now. Till everybody have a good lunch hour and back around dinner time. So signing off, Chico Dude for now.